What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Writer's Block with Noah Black. I am your host, Noah Black. This podcast is powered by Creative Corner Co. And man, today I'm really excited about our guest. This guy is the absolute bomb. Really love him to death. He's a multi-talented songwriter, musician, singer, frontman, all so many different attributes that I could go on with. But his band Messenger Down has accumulated over 16,000 followers across all platforms, and there's platforms I could probably be missing. But he also just celebrated the release of his newest project, Lost Dog Volume 1, which you can listen anywhere that you stream music. So let's welcome Garrett Foster of Messenger Down to the podcast, man. Thank you so much, dude, for coming and
What's
hanging out
up?
with me.
Yeah, always fun getting to chat. It's been, I want to say that last one was like 2022, or was that 21? I can't remember. That was
One
a
of the
couple of
two.
years ago. Lots has changed.
Yeah.
So
2020 through 2023 all felt like 1 year.
yeah, it really did.
But yeah, man, I'm excited to hang out with you and to chat a lot about the new things that you've had going on. And so like I mentioned at the top, you just had a new project, Lost Dog Volume 1, come out, which I absolutely love this project a ton. It's such a banger to listen to, and such a cool like collaboration of songs. And so how does it feel to like finally have this new set of songs out to the world?
I mean, it doesn't feel real, you know, because in our last interview, I mentioned, going through all of these different thought processes, trying to figure out what I wanted to do and things like that. I mean, the Lost Dog, the entire concept of the idea hadn't even been born yet at that point. But Do Over, and Disappear for that matter, Disappear, the lyrics had changed. Do Over is the exact same as it was then. Just obviously sounds better and is out there for the world now. But yeah, I mean, I'm ecstatic to have new music out. I've got more in the works. And it's just been mind-blowing the amount of people that are still around and still care. I thought there was going to be a lot more, rebuilding, and obviously there's going to be a lot of rebuilding. I mean, when you think of in 2018, my song Highlight hit 20,000 streams in a month or two. Do Over is sitting at a little over 1,000 after about a month, which for not doing anything for 5 years is phenomenal. But there is going to be rebuilding. There's going to be, whatever. But the fact that there's this many people that still care is awesome. And I could not be happier about it.
Yeah, that's really sick too. And I mean, you've been doing this for right at like 12 years now, right? It could be. And so like seeing the, I'm sure for you, seeing the journey of obviously kind of where you are now, whenever you look back at all the history, all the shows, all the songs, all the things, right? How would you compare, where you are now, like as a songwriter, as a musician, all the things? How would you, kind of looking back on that journey, how you've grown as an artist, as a musician?
I mean, there have been a couple of big turning points over the course of the Messenger Down project. And I mean, honestly, they all have felt like this. In 2012, I put my first songs out. I was doing it by myself. And then, just kind of figuring out how to do it. I had been in bands here and there, but obviously doing a project that is a solo thing is very different. And then a couple years go by, and then we try it as a band for a couple years. 2015 comes around, and the guys that I was playing with were like, we're going to move on to these other projects. And I just kept doing Messenger Down by myself. So it felt like this kind of, I'm refiguring out how to do this, and I'm kind of redefining what my role is, what the project is, what the project means, you know, and then I put out Cheating Death in 2018. I did a couple of singles, hit some roadblocks, took some years off, and now again I'm kind of on my own figuring out how to even do all of this, you know, trying to
Yeah,
figure out TikTok. And you know, social media has changed so much in the last 5 years
a
that I
hundred
haven't
percent.
really done that much.
Yeah,
um so again, it's one of these kind of, you know, mile markers of me figuring out what I want to do, what the project's going to be, how I'm going to treat it, you know, what direction I want to go. And
yeah,
that's kind of part of the reason why I'm doing the Lost Dog series as it is, because in our last interview, something I said, and this is something that I've carried with me for the entirety of this last 5 years. You know, I don't want to find myself in 5 years thinking, okay, well, I need to get the songs from 5 years ago out. So the songs I'm writing right now, I have to sit and wait. With
yeah,
Lost Dog, I'm finding exactly what I want to put out in the moment and
yeah.
throwing it out there, no matter what it sounds like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's it's such a big strategy, right? Because like you said, how much social media is changing so many things. And I think there's definitely a certain place for, you know, songwriters or artists out there who are just like, I want to work on a project for 3 years and then just put it out as one full thing, which nothing wrong with that at all. It
Yeah.
depends on the person. But I found like, especially in my personal experience, what strategically is working the best for me is this
Mhm.
is so like I just put out an album
Yeah.
a week or 2 weeks ago. And
Uno,
what's
right?
yeah, Uno.
Yeah.
And what's so funny about that, the like feedback I've gotten on that of people being like, "Oh, I love this song. It's so cool." And "Oh, it's so cool that you put it out, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, what's funny is a lot of these songs I released as singles over the
Yeah.
past year and a half. And so these are not new at all,
Yeah.
but the way that just the marketing works nowadays, it's when you put out different singles and stuff, people, you get a new audience in each song.
Yep.
And then it gets to where it's just like, okay, I would love to put these together as a full album.
Hmm.
Now people are like, oh, this is a new song. It's like, it's not, but I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear that from your perspective too, of just, hey, rather than sitting on these songs for a long time, let's just go ahead and get these things out to where they can
Yeah.
be people can, you know, get attached to them and everything, and then figure out what to do with them as time
Yeah.
kind of goes on. And so have you found that that's been, you know, obviously it's a new challenge, but have you found that to
Mhm.
be kind of a rewarding part of the process, being able to just, hey, I love this song, so I'm just going to put it out?
Yeah, it definitely is. And, you know, kind of going back to what you were talking about, you know, I'm an albums person. I like listening to albums front to back. And the
Yeah,
plan definitely is to at some point repackage these songs into their respective albums.
yeah,
You know, and each of the little single covers are going to have little Easter eggs that hint, like, you know, what this song is, what that song is, where they go, and where they fit. Um, you know, but like you said, like each little bit that you put out, you can gain a new audience from that. And that's kind of part of another part of the reason why I'm doing the Lost Dogs thing, because it gives me an opportunity to really focus on the songs that I love the most and the songs that matter the most.
yeah,
Um, and on top of that, I mean, I play with all sorts of different genres and all sorts of different
yeah,
styles. You know, I can from here, you know, like this first Lost Dog is very, you know, you've got Do Over, which sounds more like my older stuff. You've got Disappear, which sounds more like the stuff I was putting out in, you know, 2016, 2019.
yeah,
You know, The First Stone is kind of this experimental intro track. But for Lost Dog Volume 2, like the main song on it that I'm kind of picking the rest of the songs to go on it around is like a very synth pop, very like bass driven track
yeah,
that none of these songs are. So it also gives me the opportunity to continue playing with the genres and put out what I like in the moment, regardless of style.
yeah, yeah,
Um, because a big thing for me as an albums person, I was sitting down putting together these track lists, and it's like, okay, well, this song I love so much, but I've got this, and this that I want to put out before I put out the album that sounds
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So, it's going to let me jump back and forth and, like I said, continue exploring and playing with genre and style and, build an audience of people around each song. And
Yeah.
then when they are repackaged as albums, then they'll be like, oh, cool, here's more songs that sound like that, the
Yeah.
stuff that I liked.
Yeah.
But there's going to be like 20 different pools of people that like this stuff, some that like this stuff, some that like everything.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really interesting experience, and I hope it works out, but
Right.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's just the like experimentation of making music and stuff, especially now, like as digital as
Mhm.
everything is. I mean, you can try new things all the time, and if it doesn't work, cool. Like try
Yeah,
do something different next time, and
yeah,
it definitely ends up being a new experience. And so you mentioned like all the different fusions of stuff that you've got,
yeah.
into the songs themselves and everything. Specifically for this project, what were some of your biggest influences creating around it? Obviously, it's something unique to yourself, but what were
Mm,
some of those kind of bands you had in your rotation in your brain, kind of as you were
yeah.
going through writing?
Well, when I was there, there's a little bit of a difference of when I was writing and when I was recording and finalizing,
Yeah,
because so much time had passed. Um, Disappears the one that I wrote first. And I mean, as far as the writing, major influences on that are, Chase Atlantic, who we talked about in the last interview,
hmm,
Nothing Nowhere, The Weekend, stuff like that.
yeah,
And then with Do Over, I mean, that song changes style halfway through. It's like a
yeah,
5.5 minute song. Um, you know, really going back to like the early Messenger Down stuff, pre-hiatus Fallout Boy, Mariana's Trench, stuff like that. The last section of it, where it gets a little more like there's 808s in there and trap production, so like the Chase Atlantic Nothing Nowhere comes out a little bit there.
right,
But it also gets really heavy. I'm a
mm,
huge Under Oath fan. So there's a little bit of that sprinkled in there. And then the intro track, I wanted to, you know, have a little bit of the indie pop thing on this as well. And Do Over has a little of an indie rock-ish sort of vibe,
right,
but the First Stone, I mean, that was just me going, all right, I like the 1975. Let's put something on here that vibes like that.
yeah,
Um, and then, the process of finishing and recording them, the stuff I was listening to a lot at the time was, there's this band called The Wildlife who
yeah,
does they're like an indie pop, indie rock band, but they kind of like the same way that like the band Camino has kind of gotten very guitar heavy.
yeah,
Their most recent album is very guitar heavy. So I wanted it to fit that sort of a vibe from a
yeah,
production standpoint. And I don't know, I really wanted this first bit to sound like every era of Messenger Down so far
yeah,
all at once.
yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I pulled it off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so good because I think one of the cool things that I appreciate about this project, but I've appreciated about a lot of artists that I listen to is there is so many different influences and genres going on, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels cohesive at the same time. And I think that's not always the easiest thing to pull off. And I'll say as a listener, like you pulled that off well in this
Hey,
project. And yeah, I love that you name dropped the Wildlife because one of the things I find funny about like staying connected with you through social. Anytime there is a band or artist that in my mind, I'm like, I'm the only one that knows about them, and I'm gonna keep them to myself because I like having
yeah,
this like little treasure. It's
yeah.
it's like anytime I have that thought, within a week you're posting something about them. I'm like, dang it, somebody else knows about them. But it reminds me too of like it's cool to see your musical styles also with that because I mean the Wildlife is so stupid good. Like
Oh yeah.
so incredible. It's a rapid fire on the spot. I didn't even plan it or nothing. In no particular order. Your top three favorite Wildlife songs, just right out the gate.
Close to You is up
Banger.
there as number one. Um, I listen to music on YouTube a lot,
Huh.
rather than Spotify or Apple Music. And the music video for that, they actually mixed in some loud crowd chanting in a couple spots that sounds
Yeah.
insanely good.
Yeah.
So whenever I listen to that song, I'm listening to the YouTube music video version,
Yes.
with the gang vocals. After that, um, lonely and anxious definitely come to mind
Yeah.
as big upbeat favorites, but I cannot forget to mention Forgive and Forget.
Yeah.
That song like hits like a ton of bricks from like
Yes.
an emotional standpoint.
Yeah.
Um and then so that's four. Somebody's Gonna Love You is a much older song. It's one of their bigger songs that
Yeah.
I want to say it came out in like 2016. They just did like an updated version of it with this last album that has a little
Yeah.
bit more of a guitar presence. But that's an easy top five off the top of my
Yeah.
head. There's plenty of great songs of theirs that I'm forgetting,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty comfortable with that top five. I want to say Anxious was the first one I heard by him, and then it steamballed from there.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I
but
remember
yeah,
the first time I heard them was through a Facebook ad. So if anybody's ever curious if Facebook ads work, it at least worked in this
they
situation.
work.
Yeah.
They work.
Yep.
You just got to know what you're doing. I saw him through an
Yep.
Instagram ad, and of course, Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all meta now.
Yeah.
But yeah, my friends in a band called Yugo actually got to play with them at this little festival in Charlotte, and it was actually the Wildlife's first time ever playing in Charlotte.
Oh, that's
And I
dope.
was like, "Yo, no way!" I had to go. And honestly, like I'm planning on making a post about this later
Mhm.
on the Messenger Down account. That show was kind of like a big turning point for me
Oh,
because
wow.
I, obviously with everything having these years off, going to that show and seeing my friends who make fantastic music. If you're into indie pop, synth pop, stuff like the 1975 Valley, Band Camino, anything like that, like go check out Yugo. They
Mhm.
recently did break up, so unfortunately there's not more new music, but Jamie is making stuff, so we'll see what happens. It probably won't be Yugo, but it'll be he's got some stuff in the works. But seeing them play with the Wildlife, and then this being the Wildlife's first show in North Carolina, or at least in Charlotte, maybe they had played like Chapel Hill or something, but um, just very inspiring event
Yeah.
for me that made me go, all right, I've got to figure something out. I've got to start putting music out. I've got to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. That's dope. That's really, really cool. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, so bands like that is, I think, what, even though for me stylistically, it's not entirely what I put out currently, those are the
Mhm.
like, the band Camino, the Wildlife, those types of artists is like, I listen to them and there's just so much inspiration that can just flow from listening to a project from them. And so obviously, music is a big inspiration and driving force in creating your own music. But are there any other outlets out there that inspire you to create or inspire you to put together songs and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, everything, man.
Yes.
Uh, and I've been, very inspired the last couple months. Like I've gone through some big life changes. I'm actually living in Atlanta right now, which isn't,
Yeah.
something I ever thought would happen. But
Yeah.
I mean, just life, everything you go through can be an experience that inspires something.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I live with a bunch of film people. My girlfriend is a filmmaker, and I've even started coming up with ideas that could maybe help them. I had a
Yeah.
short film idea the other day that I told her about, and she was like, "That's actually really good." I've been kind of that, and I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole because I could talk about it for hours, but I've been kind of piecing together like a multi-arc fantasy story.
uh,
And then on top of all of that, like I'm still playing hockey, I'm still writing and recording music. I just did a feature for someone that I need to get the stems sent back. It started as I was just going to do a feature, and then it became, well, let me add some production stuff to this. And
Right.
I ended up doing like a full vocal production on his vocals. It's a really sick song, and I can't wait to get those stems sent off so that we can get it out. I don't know, just like everything is.
Yeah.
I've been feeling very creative the last couple months, and it's
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's really, really cool. Yeah. And do you, I'm interested too, because, you mentioned there is a lot of different things going on.
Mhm.
Um, and I think in my own life too, the times I've felt least creative is the times where it's very like I'm shut off. And like, if I've only exclusively wanted to write music or whatever, it's the
Yeah,
times where it's made it like so frantic and nothing, it feels like nothing happens.
yeah.
Do you feel like those other outlets kind of, if it just gives you time away, so then it makes you want to be in it more of writing and creating? Or do you feel like those other outlets kind of give you a new perspective on how to create the art that you do make in and of itself?
I mean, it's kind of a combination of both because, we talked about last time, beating writer's block. One of the best strategies for that being, you know, uh, taking a step away and doing something else. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. You're working so
Yeah.
hard on something that it turns into you're trying to force it out rather than just
Right.
let it come out of you. So having these other outlets and these other things that I'm working on, it is a nice step away from the music. And sometimes that can make you want the music even more,
Yeah.
if you've got an idea that you love and haven't really been able to work on that much, and you've been wrapped up in other things, when you finally come back to that song, it's like, yo, like, let me finish this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And that's one of the coolest things for me right now is in creating like songs and creating artwork for the songs and things like that. One of the things that's been such a huge driving factor is, having a kid. I had a kid 7 months ago, and so that's been incredible. There's a lot of inspiration of just life that's happened because of
Yeah.
that's inspired that. And being married with my wife is such a huge inspiration for a lot of songs as well. But one of the craziest things is, it used to be, I can look back a year or so ago, and there was a whole period where it was like, gosh, I am struggling to like
Yeah.
write anything during certain periods. And I noticed all I was doing is going to my day job, clocking out, coming home, and spending hours trying to write. And nothing was just flowing as
Yeah.
much as it could. And so all these new things in life happen, and I've picked up hobbies outside of music.
Mhm.
And now it's like when I go to sit down, it's like, oh, like you were saying, it just naturally just
Yeah.
starts overflowing too. And so I find
Yeah.
that really interesting of how life in and of itself, whenever you're experiencing new things, how much it
Yeah.
really can change your perspective as an artist and as a
Yeah.
musician and everything.
I think that like your creative muscle, you know what I mean? Like people talk about getting the creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like any other muscle in your body. If you overwork it and it gets fatigued, it's hard to use it. So
Hmm.
then you have to take a break and have that rest sometimes in order to come back and feel more creative. And you know, uh, someone who, like, just as an example, my best friend lives out in LA. He does music as his job. Like he was an assistant mix editor for the new King Kong movie.
Oh, wow.
And he produces for a bunch of different artists out there in LA and all over the place. You know, for him, resting that creative muscle is using the creative muscle for someone else rather than for himself.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, but for other people, myself included, resting that creative muscle is doing a different thing,
Yeah.
whether it be, playing hockey or, you know, writing a idea for this, like I thought, this little fantasy thing I've been working on,
Yeah.
watching a movie that I really like, playing a game. We talked about Kingdom Hearts a lot last time.
Hmm.
All of these things are, they can be the most helpful. You don't
Yeah.
think of it as being helpful because it's like, I just want to get this done. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, step away, use different creative thoughts, different creative, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like outlets, explore
Yeah.
other things. And then when you come back to it, you have the energy again to then work
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a crucial thing that I think for many out there who are listening or watching that needs, need a little bit of like, man, I'm in a rut creatively. Maybe that's the key thing for you is finding a hobby or finding something outside of kind of
Yeah.
your main thing that you're wanting to focus on that'll really just get you right back into running and everything too. And so I think it's really, really crucial point. I love all of that insight there too, Garrett. I mean, it's so good too. And so jumping back into, you know, now this project's out and kind of, working towards, what your goals are for the future and everything like that. I want to dive into like, this is going to sound like a really weird way of transitioning it, but like some of the dreams that you have going into the next thing. So like things like, artists you would love to collaborate with, whether it be a feature or whether it be
Yeah.
you know, a production side of things, or even artists that you would love to see yourself playing shows with in the
Mhm.
future. Who are those people? We can name drop them and then, clip this and tag those artists. That way we can make something happen. You know what I'm saying? Use
Yeah,
the
throw
social
this
game.
on TikTok.
That's right.
Day
Use it.
82 of trying to find Mariana Trench fans,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so as a not as a non-answer to your question, um, really the goal here with the Lost Dog series is just to put music out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not trying to tour, or I'm not looking for accolades or anything. It's like, I just want to put music out again.
Yeah.
And I'm really taking that step back and just doing it for me.
Love
Um,
that. Yeah.
you know, but of course the mind wanders. And I mean, just off the top of my head, like I would love to. I'm actually good friends with Maggie Schneider from Glimmers.
Oh,
Uh,
sick.
uh, and, I've met Alex a couple of times as well through their shows. I would love to do something with them. Obviously, we just mentioned the wildlife. I would love to do something with them. Uh, Bill Murray is,
Yes.
he's
Yes.
been crushing it the last couple of years.
Killing it,
And
dude.
I think I like, this is gonna sound like, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna sound, whatever. I'm just gonna say it. I think he is really coming into his own
Yeah,
right
100%.
now more than ever, because I mean, Bill Murray has been through so many different, styles and arcs and things like that. What
Yeah.
he's doing right now is, it's top tier.
Yeah.
And it he's got some phenomenal songs out, but this stuff is just, it's a next level for him.
Yeah.
And I would love to do something with him.
And his marketing is a whole nother level too. Like,
That's the thing that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's a new level for him.
yeah.
He has created this like cult following of like hog crankers and not wiping your butt. Like, it is nuts.
Yeah.
The it is it's been incredible to watch,
Yeah.
because I
100%.
remember I remember right when he left Attack Attack. um he had started a couple of bands. The March Ahead comes to mind. I think that stuff's still on YouTube, or I don't know. I was digging through recently going like, man, it's crazy how far he's come
Yeah.
with this project. And I remember the first couple Bill Murray songs and thinking like, okay, like this is cool. I'd love to see what else he does with it.
Yeah.
And now it's evolved into this whole other thing.
Yeah.
But just to quickly run through some other names, my buddy Dion Reverie. I've talked to him on and off about doing a song together for a long time, and I finally have one that, like, Dion, I need your voice on this.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and of course there's the massive ones, the the next stratosphere. I'd love to
Yeah.
do something with the 1975. My
Yeah.
Chem is pouring again. I'm wearing a Gerard Way t-shirt right
Yeah.
now. I'd love to, whatever. Fall Out Boy just took this artist named Carr out on tour
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
have really helped her build her audience. Maybe they could take me out on tour and help
Yeah.
me build my
Yeah.
audience. You
I
know what
love
I
that.
mean?
I love that.
I don't know, man. I've been such a huge music fan for so long at this
Yeah.
point. It's
Yeah.
like there are very few like things that I have heard and found over the years that I wouldn't, love to make some sort of collaboration with,
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh and I could list off names for hours.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the big things that I love about like say connected with you through socials and stuff is it's not like this weird. I'm a songwriter and I'm so much better than everyone and this and that. Like I can tell you're like such a talented like songwriter and everything that you kind of put your hands in. You're so talented at it. At the same time, you're such a huge fanboy of music as a whole too.
Yeah.
And so it's cool that like I think people just have to have that balance, man, of like, yes,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Like you have talent, you have this, you have that, but like, don't forget like just loving music as a whole and getting
Mhm.
connected to like the different scenes and styles and stuff like that. It's just such a unique thing.
Yeah. And just people in general,
Yes.
especially it's not that I ever took the audience I had for granted. I don't want what I'm about to say to make it sound like that.
Right.
But coming back after 5 years and there being people who have wanted to hear more Messenger Down and
Yeah.
are supporting me so much, it's like there is this level of appreciation that I don't think I've ever felt.
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
cool.
because they're obviously early in the beginning. It's like you're building your audience. So every new fan is like, or friend or listener or whatever, like it's awesome. And
Yeah.
then eventually you get to a point where there's so many and you can't keep up with them. And, you start forgetting names and whatever. Now it's like I have been away, but they've
Mm.
just been living their life,
Yeah.
doing their thing, and now I'm back and they still have room in their life to care about me in any capacity. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very inspiring and I'm very, very thankful for, everyone.
Yeah, yeah, that's so dope too. Yeah. And man, anybody out there too that because of all the experience that you've had, even us, yeah, we mentioned the 12 years you've been doing Messages Down, but I mean, the music you've been doing well beyond that, like being ingrained and just taking so much in from music as a whole and
Mhm.
everything, and your experience through, writing, through production, through all that type of stuff. For anybody that may be listening or watching that's trying to get into it of like I don't entirely know what it looks like to
Yeah.
get into songwriting or I don't know what it looks like to get into music production or to actually put music out there for anybody kind of in those beginning stages of interest, what would be some of your advice and tips that you would tell maybe your younger self whenever you were wanting to get into it?
Dive in head first. Uh, Especially today with, the amount of content that's out there. I mean, you can find a YouTube tutorial for anything.
Yeah.
Um, but the sooner you say, I am going to go for this and I'm going to, do every single part of it that I can, the better. Um, with me producing myself now, it's like, this is something I wish I started doing 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just the more you do it, the more experience you get in it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
So the sooner you just dive in and start going for it, the better. There's a lot of like critical tips and critiques and little things that I could say here and there, but the primary thing is to just do it.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like it sounds bigger if you're someone who doesn't know how to get into it yet or doesn't
Yeah.
know what that first step is. Um, just start.
Yeah.
I mean, everything in life, and this is something that I felt with moving to a new city the last couple, months. It's like everything in life feels like this big thing, and then you do it, and it's like, oh, that's all it took.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
many things in life, almost everything that I've gone through, every new experience that I was ever scared of, when I was in it and I was doing it, I looked back at myself being scared to start it and was like, that was an overreaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why was I so scared? Why was I
Right.
so um you will be much more thankful to start and mess up and learn
Yeah.
than to sit and wait and continue waiting until you think you're ready.
Yeah.
And especially with social media, especially with, you know, how easy it is. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse because more people than ever are creating
Hmm.
and putting their stuff out there. You hear
Yeah.
about how many their new songs there are every single day on
Yeah.
Spotify. But it's also never been, the reason why that's possible is because it's never been easier
Yeah.
to do it.
Yep.
And I don't know, you got nothing to be scared of.
Yeah.
Just do.
Yeah. 100%. And the big factor of, creating and all of that and putting it out there, inevitably, there's the side of people that is fearful of rejection and is fearful of
Mhm.
the mean comments and things like that. And I'd be lying to you if I said that that is just not the case, because it absolutely is. I mean, you
Oh
take
yeah.
your favorite singer, your favorite artist, your favorite whatever, go on anything, and you're not gonna scroll far and find something negative.
Oh
And
yeah.
so that being said, like just remembering, one, it may not be good your first couple things, and it probably won't be.
Yeah.
However, you you have to start somewhere, and you have to
Yeah.
like be willing to just, okay, I'm just going to do it. Maybe it's you find a royalty free instrumental of something that you vibe with on YouTube.
Yeah.
You download it and write verses in a chorus and record it. Record your vocals through a voice memo app and put it to it. Maybe
Yeah.
it's that simple, and then put it on
There are
YouTube. And
apps. There
yeah,
are apps that you can download on your phone that give you, I
yep,
mean, I'm not going to say professional sounding vocal mixes, but like
not
it's a
bad
voice
mixes.
memos type
Yeah,
app that you can just record your voice and it has little presets. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
it's like I said, it's easier than ever. And even if your first stuff sucks, it's like you always have the opportunity to start something new. I
yep,
mean, one of
yep,
my favorite artists and someone that I cite a lot is Black Bear.
yep,
And on MySpace, he was in a, kind of, the recordings don't sound good, pop punk band called what was it? Polaroid? I think it was Polaroid.
mm,
But he did that for years, and then he did a solo project under his like real name, and then he put out an EP called Year of the Bear, and then he started the Black Bear project.
mm-hmm,
And you know those early MySpace bands that he was in, that was him just doing it and him
yep,
just getting out there and figuring it out.
yep,
And by the time he started the Black Bear project, it's like he had a handle on everything that he wanted to do. You
yeah,
might think you just want to be a singer, but through creating, you find out, okay, well, I've got ideas that I want to make an instrumental for it as well. So then you
yeah,
pick up producing,
yep,
and like I said, the more you do it, the more you learn, the quicker you start it, the faster you
yeah,
learn, and you can get
yep,
to that next step. I saw a tweet recently that was like, it was like you're 34 years old and you're scared to, I'm not 34 yet, but the tweet said, you know, you're 34 years old and you're scared to take a 4-year course because in 4 years you'll be 38, but you're going to be 38 in 4 years whether you take that course or not.
regardless. Yep,
you know And that's, I mean, especially for like a young person trying to get into music who doesn't have any idea, like just go for it.
Yep.
I will say though, because you brought up negative comments and things like that, you'll eventually figure it out. But there is a balance between negative comments that are just hateful and then negative comments that could be taken as constructive criticism.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You'll find that balance. So don't be scared of the negative comments. If
Absolutely.
you have to understand that the first thing you make and put out there, like you said, it's probably not going to sound very good.
Yeah.
But someone's going to come along. Oh, did I cut out for a
Uh,
sec?
you were still there. It
Oh,
just the
okay.
screen did a little weird thing.
Okay, yeah. Um, but anyways, yeah, like that completely threw me off. Where was I? Oh yeah, the first things you put out probably not going to sound that good.
Yeah.
So don't be scared of the negative comments. Be prepared for them
Yes.
and know, like, okay, is this guy just being a hater, or is this guy saying something that I could use to make my art better?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that it's that whole concept of people talking about, I mean, songwriters say it all the time of like the haters or the negative comments being fuel for them. Sometimes that fuel is, oh, you doubt me because you're insecure about yourself. Great. I'm going to go make something better. Or it could be, like you said, a person saying, hey, this is lackluster. This isn't hitting the standard of like what everybody else in your genre is doing. That could
yeah,
also be like, okay, let me step it up. And I think that's
yeah.
something, that I've, for me has been, if it's ever just a like, this sucks. And like, there's nothing else after that. It's like,
Right.
you just kind of brush off the side. But then there's other times where it's like somebody will say, hey, this production isn't up. The 808 doesn't match the kick, or this doesn't blend well. This is like, that's actually helpful. Like there is
Yeah.
here's the issue, here's the solution. That type of stuff is like, I'll take that in all day long.
A
And,
hundred
and,
percent. Yeah.
that, and even, I'm sure you've learned this too, of like, putting out music for, I was in a band back in 2016 through 2019, and we put out stuff, and there was like, negative comments, things like that, which, to be honest, it was rightfully deserved. But also at the same time, it was like, that helped me develop thick skin over time. And so don't
Yeah.
expect, if you're out there and your personality is like, you really want to, people please or do whatever, don't think that, oh, I'm just going to hear this podcast and be like, oh, it's a negative comment, whatever, and brush it off. It
Right.
can affect you for sure. But over time, the more you kind of find a balance with it and just keep pushing through that,
Yeah.
you'll develop thick skin through it as well, and learn kind of what's healthy and what's not and what's growth. And like you said, what's actually, something that's maybe perceived as negative, but is actually beneficial for your growth in the long run too.
Yeah. And there's also an element of ratio to it as well. If it is a couple of negative comments here and there mixed in with support, then maybe those negative comments can help you.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, but if it's like all negative comments,
Yeah.
maybe you do need to take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing and say, okay, maybe this isn't that good. What can I do to make it better? Because there's like this level of creation bias. You think something is good because you made it.
Yeah.
And then in 10 years, you'll go back and listen to it again and go, man, that sucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
And not to cut you off there, but I think one of the most helpful things that I found too is like self-producing, self-mixing, all that stuff for the longest time. Like that definitely was such a crucial, it helped me learn more about the creative side of everything. But it was so like, I look back on that stuff and I can tell like, gosh, that really wasn't good. And there was a lot of those like, this sucks, this is that. When things, began to make somewhat of a turn for me, and by no means if I reached the level of like, having a platform, even to your degree, or, to many of the people I aspire towards. However, when I brought in an actual person who knows how to mix and isn't just like sucks like I did at mixing, to be quite frank,
yeah.
and having a team of people who help, it offers a filter. And so maybe you
Yeah.
can't, afford a mixing engineer or that kind of stuff. But if you have a friend group who is like willing to, one, be honest with you, but two, is like also not being a jerk just to be a jerk, but will give you that constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Send, before you put it on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff, send
Yeah.
it through that friend group first, and they may be able to give you honest feedback beyond, just the, bad comments. But I thought that was such a great point that you were hitting there too. I just wanted to throw that little tidbit in there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a good friend is going to tell you when you have food in your teeth and isn't going to let you walk around all day with food in your teeth.
Yeah.
Music is the same way. A good friend is going to tell you, hey, this really isn't that good. You should refine this a little bit before you put it out there.
Yeah.
If everybody around you is just saying yes, 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 but then you put it out and all of your comments are no, 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 no,
Yeah.
maybe reevaluate that group of people that you're
Yeah.
sending this stuff to. I'm not saying get new friends.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like you said, like find someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
That might be someone who might be able to mix your songs for you and help you out. Or it might be someone who is just a big music fan who's brutally honest.
Yeah.
Maybe you could even go to one of those negative comments on your video that looks a little bit more constructive. Shoot them a message. Hey, I saw your comment and I sounds like you know what you're talking about. What do I need to do
Yeah.
to make this better? I mean,
Yeah.
you just kind of got to start throwing yourself out there,
Yeah.
and eventually you'll figure it out or you won't.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep doing it, eventually you're going to figure it out. The only
Yeah.
reason you wouldn't figure it out ever is if you just took zero criticism and kept pushing through and just let your ego stand in the way of your progress.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, eventually it is all going to be negative comments, and eventually you're going to get bummed out and give up.
Yeah.
So you've got to be open to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like such good practical feedback too. And I think that there's a lot that for many people out there who are looking to take that next step, it's so good. There's you have a wellspring of knowledge in your brain.
That's what being 30 will get you.
I love it, man. I love it. But yeah, man, well, just in conclusion, first, before we close this thing out, I want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's a blast to talk with you. It's a blast to kind of see where your journey is taking you and to see you in this space where you are now. I'm just being excited to get stuff out there, and it's I'm sure paying off as the person who's creating it, but as a listener, it's satisfying to listen to, and it's very inspiring to listen to. And so, for anybody out there that's wanting to stay connected with you, stay connected with Messenger Down, what's going to be the best ways that they can do that?
The easiest is probably just going to be Instagram. I'm the most active there. But my ats on everything for personal is Garrett Foster MD. And then for the Messenger Down stuff, it's at Messenger Down everywhere except Twitter. That one's Messenger Down NC. Someone has had I think I said the same exact thing last time. Someone has had the at Messenger Down since like 2007 or something, and they haven't tweeted in over 10 years. I want it.
Let me have it.
Yeah. But yeah, at Messenger Down everywhere. Messenger Down NC on Twitter, Messenger Down Music on YouTube, but you can just search Messenger Down.
Yeah.
And Garrett Foster MD is my personal.
Heck yeah. Well, man, thank you so much once again for your insight into just everything into the space and getting everybody connected to the news. And if you haven't, for whatever reason, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't listened to Lost Dog Volume 1, click off of this video or click off of this podcast once you're done and go listen to it. It's absolutely phenomenal. And man, I'm excited to keep up with the journey of, the rest of the volumes of this project, as well as just the stuff that you put out, man. And so grateful for you taking the time to hang out with me and chat with me, dude. And man, just look forward to what's to come in the future as well.
Heck yeah, thank you. It's always fun catching up. And I can't wait to keep the train moving.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And man, thank you guys for who have been listening to this podcast, watching this podcast. If you've hung out this whole time, man, bless your soul. I appreciate it. But if you want to stay connected to, this podcast, the Writer's Block, or any other content that we have at Creative Corner Co., be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can stay connected with the podcast by adding it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts, right? On all those platforms, stay connected that way. And man, we look forward to seeing and talking with you guys soon here in the next video, or the next audio, whatever it may be. Lost my train of thought here at the end, but that's how we're just rolling with it. But stay connected, and we'll be sure to see you next time.